I'm Dr. Pete Economo, the East Coast psychologist,
And I'm Dr. Nikki Rubin, the West Coast psychologist.
and this is When East
Meets West.
So it's been quite the season, Nikki Rubin. Can you imagine that our first season, whatever the heck that even means, is coming to a wrap?
I can, especially as I was reflecting about this being our last episode of the season and of
Of 2020.
this glorious year called 2020. I was thinking, wow, and to think, 6 months ago, I was telling Pete, no freaking way will I ever do a podcast. That
And
sounds
now
horrifying to me. Now look at us.
31 episodes in, 32 episodes in.
32,
We'll have
30,
34 for the
33.
first season
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
34 total. 34 total. Yeah.
So I guess, this episode, we're just going to reflect on what this ride has been like. And I'll start with just saying that, I'm very thankful for you.
Mhm.
And
Vice versa. I'll jump in
well,
and say, yeah.
it's just wonderful, and I have shared this. I think it's funny because a lot of my friends that are listening, like of the 40 people listening, most are my friends.
Hey,
Joke.
we might be up to 70 now. I don't know.
We're even beyond that, but hey,
Yeah, we're beyond that. Yeah.
uh, but my friends are like, I really like Nikki. It's funny because they're like, and many of us now these days are all over the world,
Mhm.
and with the pandemic as interesting, and I think it's interesting because we're all over the world. We potentially have more time, and yet we have less time to actually connect.
Mhm.
And so it's an interesting, I guess, I don't know.
What sounds like you're saying that this has maybe been an experience for you. Well, obviously you and I have gotten to connect, but maybe we've been able to create connections with people that are listening
That's
that
exactly what
that
I'm
we
saying. Thank you.
that's why we're a good team. We got we really are. We really
Wasn't
well
wasn't I clear?
you well, I was like, let me translate for everybody listening.
Please.
Let me translate. Yeah, no, I mean,
Ah,
obviously, vice versa. I'm very grateful for you as well, and and grateful that you pushed me to do this because I mean, I know I keep saying it. You guys have to know, I really didn't want to do this. Like, I
yeah.
really didn't.
Well,
It
what do you
felt like,
think about it so far? I mean, just as we reflect on the year, let's not reflect on the year. Let's just reflect on when East West,
yeah,
actually.
yeah. I think we got plenty of time to reflect on 2020.
Good.
Yeah, I think I've been surprised by how much I've enjoyed doing the podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, not surprised by by how much I enjoy getting to talk to you
Rude.
every week. No, not that part. That part I knew would be fun, though. I think, and we talked about this in other ways. I think I was so worried I would just be caught up in my own head and sort
Yeah.
of over evaluating myself, and like I said, just very vulnerable experience for me to share this kind of stuff because I'm as gregarious as I can be. I'm also very, very private person,
Yeah.
and so this, like I said, felt very exposing. So in some ways, I'm surprised that I'm like, I can't believe I ever felt like that because
Yeah.
I'm sort of
Just
like,
looking. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm glad that I'm glad that we're doing this. I'm hoping it's helpful to people. I certainly have gotten the same great feedback from people that I know that have listened and said they just have really enjoyed. Uh, you know, obviously they know both of us that it's like one of my friends says, "Oh, it's just like having you in the car with me." You guys are
That's
just
what
like
a lot of my
laughing.
friends, and that's what
Yeah.
that was the point I was saying. So like one of my friends in Portland or in San Diego, in different parts of that's just the country at least,
Well,
but also
we have all over the world. I mean, we've got
we
someone
do
in
Sweden. I don't know if
Malaysia.
she's
No,
oh yeah.
we've got I think we've had Israel. We've got
Okay.
I think it was Norway. We got all over the place.
So same thing, like going to the grocery store, I can get like a little bit of you, even though I can't talk to you. And I think that that's nice. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
I mean, I think our goal is to educate people on
Hmm.
behaviorism, how suffering is normal, maybe to give some tools for how to manage some of that. I wonder, maybe we'll like reflect on like our sort of episodes that stand out.
Mm.
You know, I'll start maybe if
Please go
because I'm
ahead,
just
go
throwing
for
the
it.
question out, and
Yeah.
obviously as if we've never prepared.
Yeah.
I mean, I will definitely with Robin Walser was great, and
Oh.
we'll definitely have her back, but that would be the easy answer. But I think I want to talk like what's some of the difficult ones like race and social inequities. I think
Yes.
they really stood out for me because, I even had an athlete recently say like that they were choosing someone because of their skin color and but the way that they reflected on it was like I've never had a black coach. And I
Mm.
was like, that is just, that's really powerful. So
Yeah.
this was a black young lady talking about not having had a black coach.
Yeah.
And I just thought, wow, so here and so my response was, well, great, like I'm another white person in your world,
Sure.
but I think that the work that I've done in that regard, I see it live,
Yes.
and even with the conversation with my mom recently, which was interesting because my mom is not she's certainly not the most, like, she's not even closely psychologically minded. Um, she's adorable and sweet and as cute as can be, but she was even talking to me about some of that stuff because she was like, oh, I forget how it came up, but she was like, oh, so the black athletes like have it differently. She was asking questions and like getting
Mm.
interested, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what we talk a lot about in this episode, in this podcast, is about curiosity, right? And
Yeah,
I
and
just, yeah,
bringing in the uncomfortable. I mean, those episodes also stand out to me, and
yeah,
uh, yeah, I mean, both the social inequities, race and power, and also individualism and politics, which was
yeah,
another one. And um,
yeah.
yeah, I think it's been a helpful process for me, and I think Pete, I can put words in your mouth maybe here, and
Please,
guess that our we were both really we really want to practice what we preach. I mean, that
yeah,
happens outside the podcast too. I mean, but we wanted to talk about these really difficult things that are not just topical, like, so to speak. This is not just like, we're not talking about these things just because we're like, oh, this is in the news or something. It's because these are things that are always happening. I mean,
yeah,
psychologists, we and not psychologists as well, we could certainly stand to talk about like race and power
yeah,
with much more frequency, and curiosity and openness. And we just,
absolutely.
like, we committed to to stepping into the uncomfortable arenas for ourselves, and hopefully to model for other people.
Yeah, and so there were fun ones too, like,
Yeah, we've
with the dogs, and that was another one that stood out. Although now I should probably uh, we should re-record that because as much I love puppies, I really do, but they are exhausting. Holy cow,
they're babies.
they're
They're
little
babies. They're
babies.
little babies.
They
I
are.
mean, yeah, I guess I've also just enjoyed having a place to share information that I think never not never, wait, that's an absolute. Let me reframe. That often doesn't get communicated out in the world beyond the four therapy walls, or
Yeah.
these days the two-dimensional screen
Screen.
screen therapy walls.
Yeah.
So even like things about acceptance, like our last episode, we
Yeah.
revisited acceptance. That was our second episode, talking about dialectics, one of my personal
Your
favorites,
faves.
which no one's going to be surprised to hear me say that. That I want people to have this information, whether they are, seeking psychological treatment or not,
Yeah. 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 And that's the key, is that we want, we're expensive.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we want to be able to educate the world, because that sounds like kind of cheesy and whatnot, but it's true. Like, we really want to be able to, go outside the four walls or the computer screen. So I want us to reflect maybe on goals for next year, because, one of the
Mm.
things that we'll all share is that we don't know what we're doing. We We've heard me say that
Yes,
before.
yeah.
We have
It's
no
true. Yep.
idea what a season looks like, how
Mhm.
many episodes. We have no idea about anything.
Nope,
Um,
we're trial and error. We're trying
Trial and
it.
error. But what we do know is how we feel. And so we feel
Yes.
like we need a little bit of a break. We do feel like we want to kind of get, a little bit more organized, and kind of, especially because 2020 has been so taxing on
Mhm.
all of us.
Mhm.
And so I think for 2021, that's one of my goals, is I hope that
Mm.
we get a little bit more organized, and, maybe kind of thinking about topics, because so also for listeners, we have a list of topics ish, and then
Mhm.
often we just log on, and then we'll be like, so what are we talking about today? And then, sometimes we, pick and choose two, three
Yeah.
topics. So I think it could benefit us if we actually were a little
A
bit
little bit
more,
more structured.
slightly.
I hear you on that. It's funny because I should share. But when we started to do this, I was like really structured about it. Like I
Oh,
thought,
you
like I
were,
was
oh my
like,
God, I
yeah, remember
forgot
I
about
forgot. Yeah. Because I'd never done anything like this. And so I was sort of approaching it, I do these online continuing education courses, and I've
well, you're on
taught
the
for many
covers
years.
of the websites. I mean, it's a
Which is,
big
yes.
deal.
Yes, a very big deal. My private practice fame.
Yeah.
Uh I say this, that's a joke. I hope everybody gets that.
I get it. It was hysterical.
Yes, yeah. So, I was really structured, and then when
Yeah.
I realized, like, no, this is a conversation, like, I've almost, like, gone the other way where I think Pete's been like, "We gotta, like, rein it in,"
How
and
funny is that?
I'm like, "Nah, I kinda
Eh.
like it. Let's just wing it," you
That
know?
was a total role reversal.
Yeah, we
Oh
really
my
flipped
god,
on it
I forgot about some of your first outlines.
because I was so anxious. I
They
wanted
were
to
intense as
and I
hell
wanted to
too.
and I wanted to control it. I
By
wanted
the way, I
to
modeled flexibility in that shit.
You sure did. That's why I was I told Pete, I was like, thank you so much for tolerating my anxiety
Yeah.
and my stuck points. He really stuck with me on
I
that.
was like, "All right, sure,
Like a
outlines,
true
sure,
friend.
I'll do one." I don't know. Yeah, sure, I'll do it for the next episode. And that's now
True.
turned into, like, one shared Google Doc with a bunch of words, potential which sometimes we talk about and sometimes we don't.
Sometimes we don't, right.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Yes, we could do this more
What about, like,
structured.
social goals or, like, targeted goals or, do we
I
have,
mean,
like
I don't know. Now I'm thinking people are listening are probably like, shut the hell up.
yeah, shut up and just get
We
to
don't care to do this
about
on
what
your
our
own
goals
time.
are. Well,
Yeah, yeah,
okay, well,
yeah.
maybe what we'll say is, "Hey, drop us a line, what you'd like to hear from us."
Yeah, I like that. Please drop us a line on what you'd like to hear because I would say my overarching aim would be an intention, which we've already stated
Yeah,
today, but I'll say it again, is again to disseminate information,
yeah,
in a clear and fun way. Because, and Pete and I said this in the first episode, just very unfortunately, there's a lot of inaccurate information out there when it comes to psychology,
yeah.
when it comes to
Well,
psychology.
because everyone thinks we're like the Sopranos shrink or,
Mhm.
the one in the billions. Like, it's on one hand, we've been portrayed in series and movies, which is
Mhm.
nice because I
Mhm.
think historically we wouldn't have been.
Sure. Yeah.
Or we were like murdering somebody. And then now it's like, oh, are you gonna like cross your legs and then like show me a little bit of your like do something inappropriate because that's often
Right.
how it's portrayed. So there is a mystery, and I think many clients come and they have no idea what to expect. You notice that?
Right.
Don't you?
Yeah.
I
Well,
think,
and as we've
yeah.
said many times in the cognitive behavioral therapy world, transparency
Yes.
is a high value to us. And you know, I always tell people, I want you to know how your brain works.
Yeah.
Right? I want you to know how your brain works because when you know how your brain works, things that work well about it, things that don't work well, then
Right.
you have more opportunities to decide how you want to respond to that and work with this, because it's also something I say a lot. I'm like, brains are just organs,
Yeah.
we give them way too much credit, frankly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
it's a bunch of tissue in there that does some cool stuff, but like, the lungs do cool stuff,
The
right?
heart does cool
Heart,
stuff.
hearts, stomach does cool stuff. I mean, everything does cool stuff on our body. And yet,
Yeah.
because our personalities share real estate up in our skull with our brains, we seem to think that brains get a pass, and it's like, no, brains are organs, and I want
Right.
people to understand how they work. And like both Western behavioral science and Eastern spiritual traditions have a lot of info about how to work with these really imperfect
Yeah.
human organs.
Yeah, like we eat well because we want our stomach to digest and our body to be
Mhm.
healthy. We
Mhm.
want clean air for our
Mhm.
lungs.
Mhm.
We want exercise for our heart.
Mhm.
What are
Mhm.
we doing for our brain?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what I would say my aim is. I mean, that's like sort of my aim as a psychologist in general. Um, and that would extend obviously in this context as well, because, like I said, this is information that everybody deserves to have it.
Do you have another question about our reflection on our first season for our season finale?
Another a question.
Yeah.
I don't like a question for you or a question just like going
Yeah, for
forward.
us. Yeah.
Oh, for us.
Yeah.
I mean, well, you know what? I'm wondering, like, if for you, Pete, like, because I was sharing, this was, I really didn't want to do this and I felt so vulnerable. And now I've been
Yeah.
like, like, why was I feeling that way? I'm actually, stoked that we did this. I don't
Yeah.
know. Did you experience any of that throughout the season, or would you say you felt, pretty confident throughout?
Yeah, no, I think I believe that we have a gift. I believe that we have something to share. So I'm confident in that.
Hmm.
I think what I like is that we can also model our imperfections.
Yeah.
So I know sometimes you and I have reflected on maybe something we maybe misspoke or
Hmm.
we weren't fully accurate or something along those lines. And I'm okay with that. Like I don't want
Yeah.
to be
Same.
perfectly like produced.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be nice. But hey, Chris, thanks for editing our,
Yes.
yeah, our
Shout outs to Chris.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, and that's just because that's it's pretty simple edit. Like, just again for our listeners, we don't edit ever. I think actually once we just edited because I cursed and I just asked him to take the curse out because I don't know what the heck that means.
Yeah.
There I go again.
You can say that on
Uh,
TV. I think it's fine.
I think we
Yeah.
can say it on TV.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So no, I have always felt confident in it. I feel confident in us. That's why I've always been pushing you to do that.
Hmm.
And I think I would just like to have a little bit more structure, believe, so again, how our roles have reversed, just because I think
Hmm.
that will make us a little bit more confident and flow in a different kind of way. But yeah, I love your dissemination of information and obviously training the brain. I mean, that's always something I say, uh, because we spend so much time with other parts of our body, but we don't focus on training our brain and exercise for that.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping, to learn more, continue to learn more about Buddhism, frankly. I mean, even
Yeah.
as, I've always said, like, I consider myself Buddhist informed is the best way to describe it. Like, I, ascribe to a lot of the overarching principles and worldviews, which I came to through my training to become a psychologist. Um, though I, as I've also said, I'm not a practicing Buddhist, as Pete is, and I just have to say I've really enjoyed that. Like, there's definitely things I've, learned a lot of things about that this season from
Well,
you.
thank you
It's been
for that, because
fun.
I feel like I find myself sort of repetitive, at least that's how I perceive it, because I think that the teachings are simple. It's that we all suffer.
Hmm.
Sufferings are caused by attachment. There's a way to release attachment,
Hmm.
and then you arrive at enlightenment. Like that's the
But it's like we can't hear it enough. You know what
uh,
I mean? Like, that's
maybe,
the thing.
yeah. But
It,
I just want to clarify, like, a lot of what I bring in and we bring in is really Eastern. It's not
yes, it's not just
necessarily
to,
fully
to
Buddhist.
totally.
I am trained or studying within the Zen Buddhist traditions. But honestly, like, I train a lot different than my teacher, and that's something that he and I talk a lot about because he is very into like scholarship and writing and reading,
Hmm.
whereas and from like Zen Japanese authors, whereas
Hmm.
I'm more in like, how do I do this today in the West in
Hmm.
2020?
Hmm.
So like, I've noticed a lot of like his successors, their Dharma talks are similar to his. It's like often um, like a poem,
Mhm.
like a newspaper article,
Mhm.
and then like a something from like a Japanese Zen
Mhm.
person. And when I recently gave a talk, I talked about the no Buddha, no Dharma, like one of the Dharma sutras,
Mhm.
but then it was just like, and what does that mean then for right now in my suffering, especially with the holiday seasons, coming up on us again, and 2020 and a pandemic. And like, I just did it in a way that was like very sort of tangible, because I think that
Sure.
that is my Zen. My Zen is teaching and sharing in a very secular way, so that we can work towards releasing suffering. And all that comes from the East. Like, I was just writing a section of this new book on the body, because I'm breaking it up into like mind, body, and spirit, which is that's not new. It's just how I
Sure.
treat. But within the body piece, like, I was looking at the chakras and reading up on the chakras, which we know from yoga.
Mhm. Yep.
And so, as you talked about, like 2,500 years, it's even older, because like
Right.
India and like it's like BC, like
Right. Right.
2000
Yes.
BC, um, and like how amazing to think about our body and its energy
Mhm.
in that kind of way. So it's just all connected,
Mhm.
and that's what led me to to studying Buddhism. Is like, I started reading some more Tibetan literature, and it's like trees, the universe, like everything is connected, and
Mm.
I that always just resonated with me. So my suffering is connected to your suffering, and so on.
Well, and then we say, and my joy is connected to your joy.
That's right. Exactly. Thank you for bringing that in. That's right.
Yeah.
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 Well, got to be
So,
dialectical.
yes, well, and thank you for, and I always appreciate that about you, that you always bring it to Western behavioral science, which you're so good at, and so I'm so thankful for that piece from you.
Well, you're welcome, and like he's saying, vice versa. I mean, Pete and I, we could just do a whole episode where Pete and I just talk about
Compliment each other. We could go
compliment each
back and
other
forth. We could.
and just how much love we have for one another. Well, I just gotta say it's been fun, and I hope everybody listening, that this first season has started, maybe some conversations with yourself and other people, and maybe planted the seed to become more curious and willing to see things as they are, through these two lenses that we've presented, both again the Western behavioral science and Eastern spiritual traditions. And yeah, I'm just, I just cannot wait for it to be 2021. So I'm just really going to be just in such a great mood in early 2021 at our when we start season 2.
Yeah, and I've enjoyed every moment, every episode, and I think we will put the email in the description. So if there's any goals or topics that you'd like, I think we'll open that up for our season
Yeah.
2. And remain curious, be mindful, and be present, be brave. This has been When East Meets West. I'm Dr. Pete Economo.
And I'm Dr. Nikki Rubin. Be present, be brave.
This has been When East Meets West. All material is based on opinion and educational training of Drs. Pete Economo and Nikki Rubin.
Content is for informational and educational purposes only.